So in an interview on NBC, Trump said this about members of the House January 6th committee, quote, "For what they did, honestly, they should go to jail," unquote. Trump also said maybe Biden should pardon them preemptively. What do you think?
Well, let me say at the outset, you mentioned the judges filling the vacancies. I want to make it clear we hope to establish a dramatic number of those filling the vacancies. 86% of our nominees have bipartisan support. So these are good, competent people who will serve our country. In terms of what the president has said and others, of course we take it seriously. But the bottom line is, when we talk about a preemptive pardon, where does it start and where does it stop? When my friend Adam Schiff, who will become senator from California tomorrow, be sworn in, says that he doesn't believe it's necessary, I stand by him.
So President Biden, speaking of pardons, told the American people again and again, especially while he was running against Trump and trying to contrast himself against Trump, he said again and again he would not pardon his son Hunter. And then a week ago, he turned around and gave Hunter not just a pardon, but a blanket pardon for any crimes he may or may not have committed in the last 11 years, covering not just the gun and tax charges and convictions, but also anything he did while on the throes of addiction, involving Burisma, his alleged influence peddling, dealings with the Chinese government, Chinese companies. Your colleague, Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado, said that the Hunter Biden pardon, quote, further erodes Americans' faith that the justice system is fair and equal for all, unquote. Do you agree? Do you have any concerns about this pardon?
Listen, Joe Biden's my friend. I've known him for over 20 years, and I'll tell you, most conversations I have with him is about his family. This is a man who loves his children and has gone through quite an ordeal, having lost a former wife and child in an automobile accident and seeing the two boys, Bo and Hunter, go through serious hospital stays and try to rebuild their lives. If I have to have a bias in this area, it's a loving parent who wants to protect his child. I understand that situation, and I understand Michael Bennett's observation. He promised he wouldn't do it, now he's doing it. But it's a labor of love as far as I'm concerned from a loving father.
I want to read something that soon-to-be Senator Adam Schiff said in 2019, quote, "The president has a broad power to confer pardons, but not when they are designed to insulate himself, his family, and his associates from criminal investigation. Such an abuse of the pardon power would amount to obstruction of justice and is not countenanced by the Constitution," unquote. Now, obviously, at that time, Schiff was talking about Donald Trump and Trump's family. Democrats' argument over the last 8 years was that Trump was trampling all over the rule of law, and there are commentators out there, including some on the left, who say, based on what Joe Biden did, Democrats don't seem to be any different.
Well, let's be very honest about this. Joe Biden said at the outset of his administration that he was going to keep a U.S. attorney in Delaware on the job to investigate his son, and he went forward with the case. Whether that case should have ended up the way it did with the sentence it's likely is one story. But the bottom line is he did leave it open for objective investigation by a U.S. attorney appointed by his political opponent. That's the reality.
Trump's Attorney General nominee Pam Bondi made the rounds on Capitol Hill this week. Trump's pick for FBI Director Kash Patel will be there in the coming days. Have you received any assurances on whether those two nominees will undergo background checks by the FBI? And if not, what, if anything, can you do in the month you have left as the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee in the majority to get background checks on those two individuals or any other nominees?
Jake, let me tell you something. For 70 years, we've counted on the FBI's investigation to make sure we really understood the backgrounds of individuals seeking authority in the United States for very important decision-making. That has to continue. There's no replacement for it, and ignoring that leaves us in a strange situation where a line attorney in a U.S. attorney's office has to go through an FBI background check, but Kash Patel would not. I hope that the Trump administration will abide by the standard, the 70-year standard of FBI investigations. We want to make sure we know the stability, the competence, the dedication to our country, and the background of every individual serving at the highest level of our government.
Are you open to voting for Bondi or Patel?
Of course I'm open until I see the investigation and draw my conclusions from that and the hearing. I think I need to keep an open mind. I want to say that I think President-elect Trump has made a good choice in Marco Rubio. I've served with him for years, and I think he'll be an excellent Secretary of State.
You're currently in your 5th term in the U.S. Senate. You're up for re-election in 2 years. Have you decided if you're going to run for re-election?
I'll be making an announcement after the first of the year.
Do you intend to stay on as the top Democrat in the Senate Judiciary Committee?
Well, my colleagues in the Democratic caucus made that decision last week, and I'm honored that they still ask me to serve as whip.
All right. Thank you, Senator. Good to see you. Appreciate your time.